So let's proceed with our budget briefing from the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. And I welcome Secretary Aliling to the Senate. Let me direct the Committee Secretary to acknowledge our resource persons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. For the briefing on the FY 2026 proposed budget of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development and attached agency and corporations, namely the Human Settlements Adjudication Commission or HSAC, National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation or NHMFC, National Housing Authority or NHA, and Social Housing Finance Corporation or SHAFC, we would like to acknowledge our resource persons from DHSUD. We have the Secretary Jose Ramon Ping Aliling, together with Senior Undersecretary Henry Yap, Senior Undersecretary Sharon Faith Pakis, Undersecretary Odilon Pasaraba, Undersecretary Ramon Quintin Claudio Aliado, Undersecretary Eduardo Robles Jr., Assistant Secretary Maylene Rivera, and Assistant Secretary Angelito Aguila. For the Human Settlements Adjudication Commission or HSAC, we are still waiting for the Executive Commissioner Maria Victoria Reyes Beltran, together with Commissioner Fidel Esconde, Commissioner Sergio Yap, Commissioner John Christopher Mahamud, and Commissioner Michael Cloribel. For the NHMFC, we have the President Renato Tobias, together with Attorney Joshua Emmanuel Carino, Attorney Victor Alan Hilaw, and Attorney Erica Catherine Aguas. For NHA, we have the General Manager Joe Bentay, and Ms. Lorna Diolola, the Acting Group Manager of the Financial Services Group. For the SHAFC, we have the President and CEO, PCEO Federico Laksa, together with Attorney Junife Payot, Attorney Leo De Ocampo, VP Florencio Carandang Jr., VP Dante Anabe, VP Elsa Kalimlim, VP Philip Robert Flores, VP Joseph Aisma, VP Felman Gilbang, and VP Josefina Banglagan. For the HDMF or the Pag-ibig Fund, we have the CEO Marilyn Acosta, together with Deputy CEO Alexander Hilario Aguilar. We have also requested the presence of DBM and COA. For DBM, we have Director Benjula Zuniga, Ms. Eliza Jane Marnello, Ms. Cheryl Morilla, and Director Lulu Vispo. For Commission on Audit or COA, we have Mr. Amado Ablao, Mr. Dave Salazar, Mr. Paul Adam Tablante, Ms. Caroline Maranan, Mr. James Carlo Magdarang, Ms. Nora Michelle Ordillos, Mr. Evan Triol, and Ms. Liza De La Cruz. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ComSec. So let's begin with the budget presentation of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, and then we can also present the budgets of the other agencies, the key shelter agencies of DSUD, and then from after that we can have a question and answer portion. So we recognize Secretary Liling for the budget presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will now start our presentation. USEC Henry Yap will facilitate.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. On behalf of DSUD, we would like to present our budget today, anchored on our mandate to ensure safe, resilient, and inclusive human settlements. This proposal reflects our strategic priorities, sectoral gains, and the evolving needs of our community. In today's presentation, we will cover DSUD and its attached agencies, a brief overview of the housing sector, summary of the appropriations including historical appropriations from 2019 to the present, our performance for 24 and 25, and a report on the earmark revenues and off-budget accounts. We will end with a proposal of our legislative agenda. So the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development is the national government's lead agency for housing and urban development. We are mainly a planning, policy-making, regulatory, program coordination, and performance monitoring agency with primary focus on access to and affordability of basic human needs. Our attached agencies are the National Housing Authority, the Social Housing Finance Corporation, the Home Development Mutual Fund or Pag-ibig, National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, and our Human Settlements Adjudication Commission. They basically cover financing, production, and adjudication, forming a holistic shelter ecosystem. Our National Housing Authority is primarily in charge of housing production for our low-income families. We like to thank the Senate for helping us with NHA's new charter that was passed at the middle of this year, Republic Act 12216, which extends its corporate life for another 25 years. NHA's main program may be divided into three: resettlement programs, housing finance program, and other programs. In the case of resettlement, they basically handle the informal settler families affected by the Supreme Court mandamus to clean up the Manila Bay area. They also have resettlement programs for LGU and for former rebels. In terms of housing assistance, they cover government employees, indigenous peoples, student dormitories, and calamity victims. And for other programs, they cover settlement upgrading as well as an emergency housing assistance program, or EHAP. In the case of the Social Housing Finance Corporation, it is our lead government agency in developing and administering social housing programs, particularly the Community Mortgage Program, or CMP, and the Abot Kaya Pabahay Fund Program. Recently, with the revival of the CMP, they have enhanced the program and expanded to cover more beneficiaries. It actually bridges informal settlements to formal housing with a strong focus on affordability and tenure security. The next agency is the National Home Mortgage Corporation. National Home Mortgage Corporation strengthens housing finance ecosystems by purchasing loan receivables from originators and providing liquidity. It also securitizes those receivables by mobilizing private capital for socialized housing, a key to scaling up the delivery of these projects. Over the years, the NHMFC has developed programs related to loan receivables, including their home program, the Mabuhay program, and their Verde program. In addition, they have developed numerous securitization of asset-backed securities, and every year they're able to release or develop these bonds for additional financing for the requirements. The last attached agency is the Human Settlements Adjudication Commission. It's a quasi-judicial agency that adjudicates, among others, disputes related to human settlements, real estate development, homeowners association, as well as appeals regarding decisions of local zoning bodies. They basically handle cases and try to implement laws, rules, and regulation on zoning, subdivision, condominium development, and intra and inter-HOA disputes. The Pag-ibig, or the Home Development Mutual Fund, has twin mandates. They basically provide savings for its members and also housing finance for its members. Recently, the Pag-ibig developed new programs to expand and make it more easier for their members to be able to access loans, such as the special 3% per annum rate for the first 5 years of their loan under the Pag-ibig 4PH Home Loan Program. In addition, they expanded this subsidy for economic housing between 850,000 and 1.8 million by offering 4.5%. In addition, they are also disposing their acquired assets, and they are also providing home improvement program, a new program that has been developed in the last 2 months. So let me now give you a brief sector review where we are today. The target housing need for the period 2023 to 2028 is 3.396. This estimate is based on the projection using the 2020 Census for Population and Housing. However, if we are to add good units or acceptable units that would probably fall into disrepair during the period, there will be another 3.5 million numbers. So how are we performing as far as this is concerned? We wish to clarify that prior to the assumption of our new secretary, we were developing a 4PH program. Unfortunately, that program had a lot of delays because while it was developed in 2023 and formally launched in developed in 2022 and formally launched in 23, it was only in 2024 that we were able to get funding from the GAA. These issues spanned program design, and because of its vertical structure-centric concept, was facing difficulty among buyers, among developers. It is for this reason that we have decided to amend and expand the modality from one to a multiple of choices. The expanded 4PH is more inclusive and responsive, aligned now with the income decile and affordability threshold. In this chart, those colored in green can now be afforded by many of our beneficiaries, while those in red are the type of financing which may have difficulty with our beneficiaries. Our current modalities now include the resumption of awards for presidential proclamations, NHA's resettlement program, the revival of the SHFC CMP, and as well as horizontal low-rise, mid-rise, and high-rise options. These actually now provide a better and bigger ecosystem for beneficiaries to choose from. Over the years, we have been developing projects, and next slide please. This principally shows you how much housing assistance had been provided into the industry. During the presidency of P. Noy, the total direct and indirect provision amounted to about 700,000. In the last administration, this figure increased to about 800,000. To date, we have already reached 399,000, and we should be able to accomplish 1.133 million by the end of this current administration. In the regular programs of the SUD, we cover the registration of homeowners association, the provision and the approval of the land use plans, and the issuance of certificate of registrations and license to sell. As of June 2025, we have already registered a total of over 2,500 neighborhoods, 23,800 homeowners associations, 226 federations, and 36 confederations. In the case of land use plans, the approved land use plans total 46 for the period up to June 2025, and approved PDP-FP of 5. PDP-FP refers to the provincial plans. In terms of license to sell, residential license to sell, total 218 as of the middle of the year, and for non-residential, 38. We would like to thank the Senate for providing us funding for Integrated Disaster Shelter Assistance Program. Last year, our first year, we were given 200,000, and that amount have actually been consumed. 200 million, sorry. As of this year, we were given 550, of which 200 has been spent. 200 million has been spent, and 300 million were additionally released to us last week. This fund is used to cover augmentation to the local governments who will provide support to the houses damaged by natural calamities and disasters such as typhoons, floods, earthquakes, and fires. To date, we are going to eventually request additional funding given the amount of families that are affected. The next slide shows you the agency's performance in terms of production and finance on a year-to-year for the first semester. In the case of direct housing provision, last year, 2024, the first quarter totaled 6,988, and as compared to the 22,755 for this year. In the case of indirect housing provision, last year's first semester totaled 39,536 vis-a-vis the 37,947 for this year. We would like to share also with you the record of our HSAC in terms of adjudication. They have generally tried to come close with their targets in terms of deciding within 90 days or in case of appealed. For those that with the NA, there were no actual Prexy indicators or targets set for that year. Thus, there were no numbers indicated. We would like to highlight that the appropriation for the sector has actually been quite low for the past 10 years. It will be noted that during this period, the average budget allocated for the housing sector was only 0.2%. And if we were to exclude those given because of Typhoon Yolanda and the Marawi rehab initiatives, that number will actually go down to 0.11. During the period of 2017 to 2022, we got an average of 7.2 billion. And then during the 2023 to 25 or current administration, we were down to only 5.7 billion. This slide shows you the amount of funds that are being allocated to the housing sector. In 2019, prior to the enactment of Republic Act 11-201, the DSUD was preceded by HUDCC and HSAC was preceded by HLURB, those shown in red. So over the years, the budget of the five agencies have been slowly going up. And today, the total is 6.23 billion. The next slide shows you on a year-to-year allocation, obligation, and disbursement. For SHAPSI, we're still waiting for the NCA issuance for their amount or their requirement for this year. In comparison to the 5.563 that is proposed for next year, the actual request made by the housing sector was 229 billion. So we were only allocated 5.563, which is even lower than the 6.5 that we were given this year. So with the indulgence of the committee, we would like the committee's support to the following requests. Number one, to reconsider increasing NSA's budget to 10 billion from the 2.2 that was approved in the NEP, and for SHAPSI to be provided 500 million from the 166 million that was approved by the NEP. We're also requesting an increase in our Integrated Disaster Shelter Assistance Program to 4 billion. To date, we have already targeted or are already in the request stage of about 2.6 billion. And that number excludes the 550 that had been provided. And we still have 3 months to go. And we expect that there might be more demand for IDSAP because of the typhoons and the earthquakes that has beset the country. However, we would encourage the Senate, we request the Senate if we can consolidate the IDSAP funds of DSUD into NHA. This is to allow us to transition to a single shelter emergency assistance programs. This will facilitate the distribution because of NHA's extensive network across the country. In addition, we would like to request the Senate's assistance for a quick response fund for NHA in the amount of 500 million. And this is to cover all incidentals related to emergencies such as what we're encountering now in Cebu because of the earthquake and in Davao. As far as utilization, we can be seen from this slide that there has been general improvements or close to the disbursements for both for the obligation and disbursements for the period January to June 2024 and 2025. Before we end, we'd like to share with you our earmark revenues and our off-books budget. NHA and HAC do not have figures because they use a different accounting system. Thus, we could only show you what is in DSUD, in SHAFC, and in NHMFC and HDMF. However, we would like to clarify that the HDMF is a members fund, and thus this cannot be incorporated into the general budget of the other agencies. In ending, we would like to share with you our requested legislative agenda. We hope that the Senate can consider various Senate bills related to on-site in-city government resettlement programs, rental housing subsidy programs, housing development digital connectivity, amendments to the Balanced Housing Development Program, the Socialized and Low-Cost Housing Loan Restructuring Program, the Sustainable Cities and Communities Act, the strengthening of our key shelter agency, specifically National Home, next slide, National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation and the Social Housing Finance Corporation, the Enhanced National Shelter Program Bill, and the Philippine Urban Park System. On this note, we appreciate the committee's continued support in advancing the dignified housing and sustainable communities, and we look forward to working closely with all stakeholders for a safe, resilient, and inclusive housing sector. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. How about the other agencies, the key shelter agencies? Do they have their own presentation or lahat nandito na?
They've already been incorporated.
Here in your budget
Yes, Mr. Chair, we've already included
budget presentation, no? Okay. All right. Sige. Any more presentation or we can proceed to the question and answer?
Mr. Chair, we can proceed with the question. and
Okay,
answer.
sige. I'll start off with some basics first, like the requirement for shelter in our country. And you presented earlier, slide 9, that there are about 3.3 million 3.3 million homes required. Is that the right number?
Yes, Mr. Chair,
Okay.
3.398440.
That's the number of homes required, or the requirement for housing for the next 2 years, no, until 2028. Tama?
Yes, Mr. Chair. It includes the backlog from December 2022 plus those that will be required from 2023 to 2028.
Okay. And because in our figure, it's ang aming backlog is 6.9 million.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The 6.9 is actually the total of the 3.398 and the 3.546.
Okay.
The reason why we have separated 3.5 is because they are actually projections of possible structures that may be damaged over the period. So
Okay.
there is no reality that they will happen. So when we were preparing this, the Philippine Statistics Agency highlighted to us that they should be separated because these are just allowance for possible inventory loss.
The allowance is based on historical numbers. How did you project
Yes, the
allowance? Because it's very difficult, diba? Minsan may bagyo, minsan walang bagyo.
Yes, so
Like,
they
like
actually
earthquake is
consider
so-
this a over how do you call it? It's big because they don't know the impacts of typhoons over periods of time. No? Plus, there were also before like the one in Marawi, so there could be a unique incidences that could increase the number.
So the number that we should be looking at is 3.3.
3.398.
Okay, by 2028.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and the number of in production natin, how much are we producing a year?
Yes, our target for until 2028 is 1.133. That covers both production, indirect and indirect.
But to date, how much are we producing?
We are already at 399,000, Mr. Chair.
399,000. So if you look at this figure, for example, in 2025, the requirement is 196,000. Tama?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And then we are on the average producing 399.
The 319 is already the total from the current administration up.
Okay. But a year, how much are we producing?
So right now, so this would be about 100, approximately 100 a year. Just over 100,000 a year.
100,000 a year production.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So may balance tayo ng almost 100, in other words. Tama?
That's
No?
correct.
Yes,
It's
Mr.
almost
Chair.
100. Itong 196 in 2025 includes the backlog.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The backlog are the first two lines, 1A and 1B.
Okay.
And then in 1C, these are newly formed families.
Newly formed, yung growth yan, no? Yung
Yes.
growth, oo.
Mr. Chair, if we may just share, we were also advised by PSA to clarify that the needs do not necessarily mean a demand. So if, for example, a family already has a married child and he stays with the family, then there is already that one extra need.
Yes.
Or
oo.
if the parents opt to stay with the child, then that is still an extra need. So it doesn't mean that there is a demand, but for purpose of the way UN computes that is already a need.
Okay. So, itong 1A for 2025, 7,856. Ito yung mga ISF.
Not necessary ISF lang.
Kasi
Iba-iba po siya.
Unacceptable housing units eh.
Yes.
So, I would assume ISF
The
yan.
bulk would be ISF pero hindi lang po kasi nung gumawa yung PSA tsaka PSRTI, they cover different areas. So hindi lang po, let's say in areas where it is agricultural area pero hindi naman dapat merong mga bahay doon.
oo.
So nagkakaroon ng mga ganun.
Oo.
But generally ISF is the bigger part of it.
7,856 families lang?
These are families po, families.
Ganun lang kakonti ang ISF sa buong Pilipinas?
No,
Seven-
right now that number is the backlog here is 2.2. Ang ginagawa po ng ang PSA, pag meron silang ISF, separate po yung ISF, tapos separate yung condition. Let's say they're already awarded proclamations, iba po yun. Kasi yung iba may lupa na.
Yes, pero ano lang, I would assume cumulative to, di ba, in 2025.
Yes po. So each number, let's say 2.2 plus 384 plus 815, yun po yung cumulative. Kaya umaabot ng 6.9. But that 6.9 is actually already combination of those that are not in good condition tsaka those that are allowance for inventory losses.
Gusto ko lang hindi, ano pala, no? umpisahan natin dito sa accumulated. So accumulate 1A lang I just want to focus first
Yes,
on the
1A.
informal settlers, and we will assume yung 1A majority of that informal settlers kasi households in / likely to occupy unacceptable housing units, 'di ba? Informal settlers yun.
Yes.
So ang backlog natin is 1 million, 'di ba?
Yes.
Then you add it until 2025 another 21,000, diba?
Yes.
So
Yes, Mr.
lumalabas more or less mga 1.3 million. Tama? So
Yes.
today 1.3 million ang ISF natin in 1A. Tama?
No, Mr. Chair. Bali, sa 2022, 1 million. And then every year may 7,000
Additional,
po.
'di ba? So 7 times yung until 2025,
So mga
Okay.
50,000 po ang nadagdag approximately.
50,000.
Opo.
So 1 million plus 50,000.
Opo.
Tama ba?
20,
Hindi yata eh.
Sorry, it's 23,000.
23,000, tama. 23,000. Oh, so lumalabas nga isarado na natin 1.3 by 2025. 'Di ba? 1.3 million to date. Meron tayong mga kababayan na nasa unacceptable housing units na 1.3 million. Tama? Yan ang ating to date, to date. Yan ang
It's
ating
1,071,000.
1 million
1,048,000 plus 23,000.
1 million
71,000.
Oo. 1.01
Yeah.
1.07. Yan ang ating backlog, no, for to date, for 2025. And to date we have only produced 100,000 to 300,000, 'di ba?
399, yes.
399. Sabihin na natin 400 para madaling i-compute. For 100,000 a year, so 300,000 ang naproduce natin. So ang backlog pa natin sa ISF lang is 700. Tama?
That's correct, Mr.
Correct.
Chair.
So 700 pa ang kulang natin. Only for ISF. Wala pang growth to. Only for ISF. Okay. So malaki pa yung ating pupunuan. So in order to wipe out the backlog for ISF, we need to produce at least mga mga 200,000 230, mga 240, sabihin na natin 240 a year, no, to wipe it out. No, yun ang ating target. Only for ISF yan, sinasabi ko lang ISF kasi yan yung nakikita natin ngayon eh. But if you include of course yung growth, kasi every year merong bagong pamilya, may mga kinakasal, we're adding close to about mga 108, on the average 190,000, no, more or less.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's the 1C portion.
Oh, that's the 1C portion. Okay. So pag in-add natin yung 1C portion to date, that's mga 200, lalabas mga 1.6, mga 600, mga 1.6 more or less. Diba? 1.6 million ang kailangan natin to date 2025. But we're only producing 100,000 a year. So that's we produce 300,000, so mga 1.3 ang backlog natin. Laki pa,
That's
Secretary.
correct.
Laki pa. Okay. So I just want to settle the magnitude first. So to date 1.3 ang ating backlog to include growth, and that's why you requested, your original proposal was 221 billion.
Tama.
Tama?
That's correct. That's correct.
221 billion, no, 221 billion. And I would assume the 2 to 1 billion is really, tama?
229 billion.
229.1.
The proposed budget, Mr. Chair, for 2026 is 229.1.
229 sa notes ko is siguro may konting konting discrepancy, but dito sa akin is 221 eh.
Yeah.
Ba ano lang,
More or less,
minus
yeah.
more or less nandiyan tayo. So I guess that 221 is meant to address that 1.3 billion backlog today.
That's
To
correct,
date.
Mr. Chair.
Oo. So ano ang layo no, Secretary, from 221 or 221 229 na bigay is 5.5.
Mr. Chair, if you will note, the 229, 197 of the 229, we were proposing for NHA, meaning this is for direct production. Kaya makikita natin, we were really pushing for a higher budget for production to address the backlog.
This is itong 197.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
197. Okay. And this includes, nakasulat dito sa briefer namin, 404 new projects, including 315 projects targeting 49,000 units. Tama?
NHA GM is here.
Oo. Yung ba yung target is to produce 50,000 units?
Mr. Chair, the 197 units was our proposed. Basically, these projects came from the
197 billion.
Yeah, the 197
billion worth of projects. Basically, these projects came from the Regional Development Council and were requests from the multiple mga LGUs po.
Okay. So itong 197 galing to sa RDC.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Mas maganda yun. At least bottom up yun eh.
Yes.
Okay. And then how many units can this 197 produce?
155,000.
155,000. Okay. But this is out of purely subsidy, no? Ano siya? Anong klaseng itong 155? Anong modality siya? Is it going to be kasi maraming modality ang
NHA
housing
has,
Oo.
will explain, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, this is multiple, but the one to be funded by the GAA is almost 32 billion, which is housing for informal settlers for those living along danger areas. Meron din po yung para sa SE Mandamus and yung mga affected by infra projects. We have IP housing rin po in housing for former rebels.
Ito yung 197 billion.
Yes, which is part of it is the 32 billion and majority of this po is the 155 billion. Ito naman po yung mga request ng mga different LGU which is part of the 4PH program.
Okay. We'll go to the 4PH later on. Pero ang nabigay lang sa inyo is 2.2. The request from the LGUs, I would assume, forms part of that yung kinukompute natin kanina, 1.3 million backlog. Yung source nito 1.3 million na backlog to date 2025. Anong source ng data niya?
The data was based on the 2020 census population and housing.
Okay.
And then projected from 2020 to 2022, which is the cutoff
Okay.
date.
But is there a way na nabangga to with the request ng LGU? Is there
We did not do that kasi the PSA data are based on census and then these are requests from the regions.
kasi mga request ng LGU iba-iba yan. Minsan may pang empleyado nila, minsan merong pang iba-iba no? May mga informal settlers for sure, 100% ako. Pero meron ring mga ibang LGU, they want to provide housing for their employees, yung iba for the, I think mayroon pang, if I'm not mistaken, for middle low income, mga ganyan. So iba-iba siya. Okay. All right. We'll talk about yung 4PH housing. I think this is the flagship project of DSUD. And kanina narinig ko sa presentation that there were problems with the 4PH. So ano yung mga problema, and then how is this corrected with this new budget? I would assume na correct yan with this new budget, no?
That's correct.
Because
Mr. Chair.
kakapasok nilang secretary. So this
Except
is your
for
full year
the-
budget, no?
Yes, Mr. Chair. But again, NHA now is what we did in the 4PH before. We only had one modality, which is vertical. So basically, we expanded the scope of the Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino program, or 4PH. This is the flagship project of the national government. Too many modalities. So instead of just having one modality, we included horizontal, rental, then we resumed the presidential proclamation and the community mortgage program. So lahat po ito, including the production of NHA, is now part of what we call the expanded 4PH. So we resolved in adding modalities, we resolved the affordability problem. Kasi as we all know, the most expensive modality is vertical or condominium. So nung binuksan natin yung ibang modalities, this slide will show us na yung income deciles 1 to 10, meron ng available na housing program. So yun yung basic in-address natin sa expanded 4PH. So with this po, we also improved the financing program through Pag-ibig. So ina-address natin are two basic things, no? The supply side and the demand side. So sa demand side muna, let me explain, Mr. Chair, what we did. Nag-introduce ang Pag-ibig ng low interest programs for the 4PH. So 3% lang yan instead of the 6.25%. So makikita natin dito, more or less na-address natin yung problema sa affordability. Then on the supply side, ang 4PH kasi, combination to ng private sector and government production. So yung private sector, sila yung magpuproduce ng vertical and horizontal. These are the condominium and the house and lot or row houses, no? So ang in-address natin sa supply side is pinagaan natin yung we streamline the process for them to get permits and clearances. So then second, ang malaking concern nila is the price ceiling of the socialized housing, which is due for increase this October. We have communicated already with the DepDev regarding this, no? Kasi jointly to, we have to release the joint memorandum circular signed by DSUD and DepDev to increase the price housing ceiling for socialized housing. Ngayon, once na ma-address natin to, we expect private sectors to produce more inventory. On the demand side, as of today, when we open since we opened the online registration of Pag-ibig, ang registered na natin is around 30,000. But ang inventory natin is only about 18,000. So makikita natin na meron demand, ang kulang natin is inventory, which the private sector developers should we expect them to produce. Now, yung mga lower income decile natin, pumasok na po yung community mortgage program. So we are ready now to award at least 7,000 titles, no, from October to February. And then after resuming also the presidential proclamation, ready na rin tayo to award 5,000 titles starting October to February. So makikita po natin, substantial po yung increase ng number ng 4PH. As of May, ang actual take-out ng 4PH was only around 1,000 units. Ngayon po, with all the modalities, ang available na po natin is around 30,000. So it's still low, But makikita natin, it started na magkaroon ng traction. No? Yung 4PH, nagta-traction na sa ground. And through the programs of NHA, SHFC, NHMFC, and Pag-ibig, yung awareness din ng 4PH tumataas na. We receive a lot of inquiries and questions. No? In fact, yung housing summit sa Wednesday, no, October 23, nag-online registration kami. In just a few days, ang nag-register was 10,000 na ang gusto mag-participate dun sa housing summit. So the demand is there. So ang kailangan lang namin is to increase the appetite of the private sectors to participate, which already they committed around 250,000. No? Yung mga private developers, nag-commit na sila ng 250,000. They will produce until 2028. Now, ang kailangan natin tulong sa government side is yung government production. Ito ngayon yung NHA and SHFC through their community mortgage program. So, lahat po ng makukuha nating pondo from the national government, dito po papasok sa production ng NHA and SHFC through their community mortgage program. So, ito po ngayon ang 4PH. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Secretary. So, can we go back to doon sa yung may green and red? So, ito yung sinasabi nyo kaninang na-cover lahat ng income deciles.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Before,
Yung last three po, yung low-rise building hanggang high-rise building lang yung modality natin.
yes, yun yung naririnig ko before kasi na the program, well-intentioned yung programa, the program is also going to address partly the housing backlog or the shelter backlog. Pero ang tin-target lang niya yung higher income deciles, no? So yun yung design before.
Dito po, makikita natin sa slide nito, yung single modality which is vertical, ang kaya lang ng ano niyan is 6 income decile 6 pataas. So ang catered segment niya then was 5 and below, which we addressed by adding the other modalities: horizontal, rental, community mortgage, NHA programs, and the presidential proclamation.
Dati low-rise building, di ba? Pasok siya sa low-rise building, yung before, yung dating design.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So
Low-rise.
pag low-rise siya, based on this matrix, it starts at income decile 6.
Yes, Mr.
So
Chair.
dapat ang income mo is 25,000 a month.
Yes.
No? And then you expanded it, pinasok nyo na yung presidential proclamation, resettlement, community mortgage program, rental housing, as well as horizontal housing.
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
So I understand that the 4PH, so sinama nyo na itong mga ibang modality or ibang types of housing projects. But the 4PH is really subsidizing the interest.
Interest, 2% interest.
2% interest. So, for example, in a project like the NHA resettlement, diba? So, for example lang.
Mr. Chair, the subsidy is only for those units to be produced by the private sector.
Okay.
Horizontal modality and vertical modality.
Horizontal modality and vertical modality. Yung rental housing, community mortgage program, wala siyang interest.
Wala po siyang interest subsidy.
Kasi maliit lang yung binabayaran niya eh. Diba? May binabayaran pa rin siya, di ba?
Meron pa rin po. For example po, yung rental housing, ang model na ginagamit natin is the Disciplina Village. So we're trying to replicate that through NHA.
Pero wala na siyang subsidy.
Wala na po.
Kasi subsidized na yan.
Subsidy.
Masyado
Mababa na
mababa.
yan
200, 300 peso. Itong buti nga ito,
800.
tumaas eh. Sa amin, 300 pa yata eh.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Hirap
Pero hindi na natin kaya ngayon yung 300.
Hindi na
kaya.
kaya. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with 300. In fact, sinasabi ko nga sa LGU, dapat taasan na yun eh. Dahil the 300, time ko pa yun. So,
The CMP, Mr. Chair, is around 600 pesos on the average per month.
okay. And that's already a subsidized amount eh.
Yes.
Correct. So the interest portion will only come sa horizontal housing and above.
Yes. Everything that's produced by the private sector.
Okay. So in other words, yung 4PH for the government produce, walang nangyari. dati nang ganun siya, di ba?
Dati po suspended. It was suspended for the first 3 years, yung community mortgage and presidential proclamation. Pero we tried to enhance.
Suspended in terms of production?
In terms of implementation, it was suspended by the previous administration.
Okay. So walang pinuproduce kahit isa?
Hindi pinroses yung mga CMP na nakalinya sana.
Okay. And is there any reason for that?
The intention then was of the former secretary was to really clear areas, no? I-clear niya yung areas ng ISF, then build vertical structures. But it did not materialize. So the intention was urban renewal talaga during that time.
Pero saan mo dadalhin yung mga nakatira sa
Yun na,
ISF?
ang naging problema, one is yung land and affordability. Kasi hindi naman po libre. Magbabayad sila nitong, sabi nga natin, ang kaya lang was income decile 6 and above. So hindi nag-match yung affordability and profitability ng mga developers. So it did not fly.
Nakita ko kasi dito sa budget nyo, meron kayong 700 million for 4PH.
That's for interest subsidy.
That's for interest,
not
no?
for production.
Okay. No, I'm trying to, kasi yung itong yung sa mga lower income, existing na yan dati.
We just tried to, yes, that's correct.
Pinasok,
Mr. Chair.
rinibrand lang into 4PH.
No, we improve it. For example, community mortgage program, we are going to the second processing or renewal. Unlike before, natatapos siya sa pag-award ng ownership lang titulo. Pero ngayon, we're going beyond that. Ini-improve natin yung mga drainage system. We call that CMP2. That's the difference. Yung presidential proclamation and yun, as is yun. We just resumed it. Then we're trying also to study how to implement what we call the CMP2 program of SHFC dito sa mga presidential proclamations. No? We want to improve the utilities, yung mga security nila, yung mga CCTV camera.
And that's to the account of government.
Yes.
Gobyerno nagagawa nun. Oh. Is that part of their
That's part of the
amortization?
program. That's part of their amortization. I-built in natin yung renewal, yung improvement ng area nila through the SHFC program. Community loan po ito, pero very low naman yung bayad, around 600 pesos per month on the average lang po.
Okay. All right. So itong 700 will really go to the privately developed
This will subsidize
units.
po yung mga buyers na bibili from private developers.
Okay. Now the reason why I'm also asking yung pie nung 1.3 million na requirement natin for 2020 for this year 2025. Gusto ko sana doon na nakita natin kung ano yung 1C, 'di ba? Ano yung 1A and 1B. So, pag titignan natin yung 1A, that's lumalabas siya parang 3.3 million requirement. Sorry, 1.07 ang requirement niya. Diba? Pero ang 4PH is targeting the 1C, which is the 300,000. No? So ang point I'm trying to make is yung 700 hindi siya pumupunta doon sa ISF but pumupunta siya doon sa non-ISF.
Mr. Chair, yung mga ISF kasi may mga ISF na kaya bumili ng horizontal. Malaking portion din po ng ISF natin kaya nilang bumili ng horizontal. Kasi if you will note, pagka pumasyal tayo sa mga ISF areas, maraming pong working class din na dyan nag-uupa. Diyan sila nakatira. Lalo na yung mga nagtatrabaho sa government agencies. Kasama po sila dun sa nabibigyan ng interest subsidy kasi interesado rin sila or kaya rin nila. Below income decile 6 sila eh. May mga nakatira na po.
Can we go back doon? Can we go back doon sa green and yan. So for example, pero dito kasi red na siya eh. Pag let's say you're ISF ka, tapos you're earning
Mr. Chair, may
11,000, 15,000 a month, di ka na makakabili ng horizontal or low rise eh.
Tama po 'yan, Mr. Chair. Pero may mga nasa ISF areas po na nasa income decile 3 to 6 in reality pagka nagpunta po tayo ron. Yung mga hindi talaga kaya doon, talagang ang available programs lang natin are the first 4.
Okay. And the first 4 is carried by the key housing.
Yes,
The
NHA
KSA.
and SHFC.
Oh, hindi na na ano ko kasi ako nag-part siya ng 4PH, pero yung 700 hindi siya pupunta doon sa first 4.
That's correct.
Correct. So it's really just part of a branding, but it's the funding will not go to the first 4. That's why I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to understand kasi saan pupunta itong
Yung government
700.
budget po, yung 700 will be for yung private sector talaga.
Okay.
Yung GAA na for production, that will, or government produced houses, doon po pupunta doon talaga yung para sa mahihirap.
Oo. And based on your I'm sure hindi kasya, no, dahil requirement yung nga 200 billion eh. No, I'm sure hindi kasya, but ang tatanungin ko, itong mga key shelter agencies, meron naman silang pondo to address the first 4 programs.
Ang ginagamit po natin, although hindi ganun kalaki, is the existing escrow fund na ito yung contribution ng mga developers sa socialized housing. Like ito pong first 5 sites natin ng CMP through SHFC, ang nagpondo po dito is the escrow fund of the department. And then for the initial rental housing projects na yun nga, we're trying to replicate the Disciplina Village through NHA. This will also come from the escrow fund. Pero as I said, pag naubos po itong escrow fund namin, yung first 4, hindi na namin matutuloy.
Yung escrow fund comes from anong source ng
Ito po yung contribution ng private developers. Every time na, is this the balance housing
yung
contribution?
okay.
Accumulated po ito ng ilang years eh. So,
And that's a fund siya. Pera siya.
escrow on escrow accounts siya ng
Okay.
developers.
Okay. And then escrow in the name of
Developers po. Then we
how do you produce the homes, the shelters?
we download Yusek Faith, can you explain the process of
So may escrow siya, sino gagamit ng escrow para gumawa ng bahay?
For example po, for the 5 CMP projects that will benefit 925 beneficiaries na funded ng escrow, ang gagawin po namin doon, i-release namin yung escrow fund nila and then i-issue po namin siya sa SHFC so that SHFC can buy the land of those ISF occupying po yung land na bibilihin nila.
Okay, but sino magproduce nung mga bahay?
Since sa SHFC po, ito po yung sinasabi ni Sec Aliling na tatawid siya ng CMP2. Since the CMP1 is land acquisition, CMP2 would be upgrading of their houses na andon na po. So on-site po ito, hindi po namin gagalawin yung bahay nila. But we are really trying to work with SHFC to upgrade the individual houses of the beneficiaries that are living in that land area that we are funding through escrow.
So using that escrow fund?
Yes.
Okay. Di ba yung escrow fund na yun, when a developer develops, dapat meron siyang socialized housing component?
That's it po. The escrow fund is pursuant to originally RA 7279, which is the UDHA law, and was amended by RA 10884, the Balanced Housing Program Development Program. So ito po yung mga compliance nila. Instead of directly producing socialized housing in compliance with the Balanced Housing Program of the government, they have the option to avail of the escrow fund. So pag po ganon, it is already the discretion of the department where
Kung saan
to use
ilalagay.
it or to allocate such fund.
And they can put that in the first 4 programs?
Yes, Mr. Senator.
Okay, all right. Okay.